at a high level, I'm looking at the market kind of at different sectors and then subsectors within those sectors. So one of the big themes these days is AI. It seems
CWR Private Client Group was voted Best Financial Advisor by St. Louis Magazine. They have been helping individuals and small business owners achieve financial success through innovative financial strategies for over 18 years. CWR Private Client Group, creating and preserving wealth.
to be the biggest hype. And very well firsthand when it first came around, I thought it was just kind of hot air in a brown bag ready to pop, and thought it was kind of, it's a old dog new tricks type of deal. Come to find out, it's a big deal. And looking through the main name, NVDA, and the amount of capacity that's in demand for their chips, it's just astounding. And branching off into different companies, on the server side, on the infrastructure side, and finding out that, these guys literally cannot buy GPUs fast enough. There is not enough supply on the market to satisfy the demand. It just makes you wonder, what are people like Kathy Woods assessing when they look at NVIDIA, who I was reading out, I think she missed like a 3x run up. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she's a bit salty and trying to backtrack, but people like that, they come to the table with some garbage thesis, and they don't take into consideration that this is not an equivalency to the dot-com bubble.
No.
There's actual factual demand, there's actual factual cash flow and cash on the balance sheet. Like, how does this at all equate to the dot-com bubble? The SPAC shit that we saw a couple years ago, sure, same story. But the AI boom, that is a completely different animal. So to dissect that a little bit more. Oh, sure.
Can I hop in on that real quick? Yeah, because
of course.
The other thing is a lot of people are looking at the PE ratios, and I just feel like the FOMO we're seeing might feel similar to the dot-com bubble because of the hype cycle correlated with it. But you have to also think about the fact that there's 20 stocks you could play related to AI rather than the hundreds and hundreds during the dot-com bubble. Everyone's just piling into a few names. And Kathy Woods, I noticed we just shared some data in the Discord of hedge funds are and institutional money is actually under allocated in the market right now, well below average. So she's not the only one who is just literally just not catching any of this right now. It's actually crazy to me that I think there's still a lot of denial in this, which makes me think that this might just be the start of the craze, which is kind of wild. Were you about to transition to individual names? Because there's one thing I would like to say about the Fed too.
No, I was going to kind of dissect a few key points on the AI side.
Oh, let's do that. Let's do that.
In there.
Get in
okay.
There.
All right. So in my mind, there's two sides to the AI story. There's the corporate and consumer side. The consumer side's us playing around on ChatGPT, creating really cool graphic pictures and writing a dissertation for us. On the corporate side, it gets a little bit more intricate because, they're using these large language models, whether public or private data, primarily going to be private data, and developing their own internal, essentially corporate optimization machine to where, you can automate processes, you can eliminate overhead costs, you can, like analyzing well data. Schlumberger they've been doing this for a decade plus, 2 decades or whatever. They've been doing this for a very long time on assessing well data and, well flows with their applications. So stuff like that, AI has its purpose. And, people are just now catching on to it, finding that, this actually does have a very well-structured business case. And, turning to Gartner's forecast for 2024, software is projected to be up, I think, if I remember correctly, something like 12%. Hardware on the infrastructure side, somewhere like, I think it was 8 or 9%, give or take. And then, other areas were up or down. But regardless, software is expected to be up tremendously, year to year as far as growth goes. And one of the key points that CIOs who were surveyed mentioned was that they're not necessarily looking for these big game changing implementations. You know, they're looking for cost cutting or cost management type softwares that they can get in, get them to work, and they can work effectively. They're not looking for these long-term projects or refreshes or anything like that. So that kind of plays into a big part of my thesis, to where, you know, you're looking at two sides. You're looking at the hardware side, you're looking at the software side, you're looking at the device side, you're looking at the networking side. So networking, you know, you're looking at higher capacity routers for transferring the data, which, you know, in data center, that could be the next bottleneck that industry tackles after they get these GPUs and these servers in place. And then followed by devices, which that's expected to go up a couple percent at most this year. That's going to be the last leg as far as the implementation goes, to where, you know, you're going to get the servers with the GPUs in, you're going to get the networking infrastructure so you can transfer the data at appropriate speeds. And then you're going to buy the end devices, the laptops, the desktops, the workstations. So when you actually log in to use these applications, you know, your machine just doesn't blue screen because it's overcapacitated. So there's
have,
a bit of a
sorry to interrupt you again, but are you still seeing are you still seeing constraints on the GPU side, and then you're expecting that, just to kind of summarize what you said, you're then expecting the bottlenecks to be start building in that networking infrastructure then as well.
correct.
So what does that look?
Correct. So,
What it,
so yeah, networking, it's projected to be a down year again this year, across all the different semiconductors as well as the equipment integrators. So that kind of bakes into my thesis that this isn't going to be a 2024 project. It's going to be probably a 25 or 26 project once they get those GPUs in place. As far as the bottlenecks go on the supply side, Taiwan Semiconductor, they are doubling their capacity for, I don't know how it's pronounced, if it's COWOS or COWOS.
okay,
Essentially,
yeah,
you know, it's their manufacturing process for
okay,
building these chiplets. So they're doubling their capacity. So NVIDIA can essentially double their capacity on manufacturing their GPUs.
that's
And then
huge.
you have, oh yeah, no, absolutely. And then you have companies like AMD. What is it? Their MI 300X that's out. You know, that's expected to ramp up later this year. You have Intel. What was it? The A20 chip or whatever it was with
Right.
their chiplets. That's expected to ramp this year. So you have a lot of different nodes of capacity that's coming online later this year. And then we've discussed in previous calls, you have all the hyperscalers in the process of developing or designing their own GPUs uh, for taking up some of that much needed capacity that NVIDIA alone cannot satisfy. So you have a lot of different hands coming into the bowl, and it seems like it's not going to be very cannibalistic. It's going to be more so, you know, there's different corners of the market, or there's enough market for everybody to dip their hands in the pot.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest risk would be holding NVIDIA much longer at this valuation, because the issue isn't the demand. The issue isn't that the hype isn't real. The issue is sustaining this 90% mark, like TAM, this total addressable market, is going to be difficult because everyone's pouring money into being an NVIDIA competitor. There's so few industries where the one dominates all. This won't last, and that is like I seen. They're not listed on the market though, but Groku is a small startup company that, like, right after NVIDIA's big presentation for their new Blackwell um, chips, there was Groku putting out an announcement saying, "Hey, we're still faster than their best tech by by uh by almost double," which is actually incredible. Like, this is such a arms race in the technology. It's moving so fast with these LPUs. Man,
Mm-hmm.
that makes me excited for what could come. And so I can. Do you have, so you're thinking 2025 for the networking side, to really build up capacity, is not expected to have uh much growth yet there.
Yeah,
Um,
it'll be a slow burn.
Slow burn. So then when we're talking about the uh hardware for the desktops and stuff, laptops, desktops, the driver there, are you expecting AI chips to be is put in these devices or hardware in them for localized um running of the software on the
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Okay, not
Absolutely. And there and this goes back to my two sides of the coin, the consumer versus the corporate side, where I think just given how extended consumers are, given the high inflation rates we're seeing on, different things like housing, on food inflation, on, just cost of general cost of living. I need to reference, I think it was a Deloitte or McKinsey or EY article that discussed it, but it was something like, and don't quote me on this, my number's going to be completely off. I think it was like 40, 50, or 60% of those surveyed suggested that, they're on they're walking a very fine line on their budget right now. It's very
okay.
tight. They don't have the expendable income that
Yeah.
they once had a couple years ago. And
And
my
I
thoughts are, if you can push off buying a new laptop for the sake of, preserving capital, I think people are going to be doing that this year.
yeah, we had talked about this in the past when we were talking about the credit crush, and I was trying to really take to task the idea that the consumer was already hurting late last year, and I was normalizing the amount, normalizing wages to outstanding credit, because everyone was throwing these headlines around with, there's $1 trillion in consumer debt. And if you actually map that out to how much people were making in the wage inflation, consumers actually, it was actually relatively low amount of debt comparative to how much people were making. But if we look now today at where that stands, there's been huge deflation in wages, almost back to a more normal rate. We have the charts in the Discord and stuff. And so I agree with you. I think the consumer's going to start hurting. But I mean, um, as far as like the market effects on that, though, I mean, Powell just came out on Wednesday and just blew my mind, where he basically said, "Hey, uh, we're okay with inflation running a little hot, and we're just looking for an excuse to cut." And I was like, "Okay, well, you've basically brought back to life the 2021 narrative of like the Fed has a put on the market, you don't have to worry." And I mean, since that FOMC meeting, we've just seen everything just come like melt up. Uh, the technicals have been getting a little weird for anything other than intraday, because we should have probably seen a pullback by now, especially with a market that since February won't even retrace to like a 20-day moving average. This is nearly twice as strong as it was during the actual bubble, which makes everyone panicky about it. But you got a Fed put in place, you have real demand. And I talked about some of those private market competitors with NVDA. That could be an issue for their dominance, but at the same time, they can't meet the demand. They're just small companies that
Mhm.
don't have the production levels necessary to even come close to it. So even though if the tech's better, it doesn't really matter much if there's no way to actually service the corporate side or even the consumer side. So
You have to also
man, it's just
consider, you also
crazy.
have to consider compatibility as well as
Oh
cost
yeah.
and feasibility,
Yes.
because not all chips are designed the same. And,
Yeah.
you have to have software running on the chips, or, you have software on chips, however you want to design it. But, you know, just it needs to be able to talk to other pieces of your hardware is what I'm trying to get at. And if they're making these highly specialized chips that nobody else is using, it's going to be very hard for them to break into the industry. They might have one large client that they work with, maybe a couple or a handful, but otherwise, it's going to be challenging for them to scale.
Right, especially if everyone just dumped all this money into the infrastructure and everything necessary to just
Hmm.
go and swap that out. It might create opportunities for smaller companies that probably aren't listed on the market, that probably won't benefit us at all, that we can't have opportunities to. Uh, but for more small, nimble startups and stuff, might be able to build their infrastructure for future endeavors that we probably won't even see appear on the market till 2023, or I'm sorry, 2030 or even later. So, but it'll be interesting to watch to see how that plays out over a decade, maybe. Maybe we even just get generalized AGI before that. And then AI just takes over the world. Becomes a
You
better
got
trader.
Skynet running us down, and there's
Yeah.
Boston, what is it, Boston Dynamics or whatever, with
Yeah.
their robo dogs.
That
Those are
really,
chasing us down, knocking on doors.
have you looked at any of these robotics companies? As I mean, I don't think there's any listed on the market, right? This has been the only way I thought about to get any exposure is Tesla, because everything else is just a private company. But that surely, especially Tesla being at such a cheap price, and because the key to pretty much infinite productivity is the combination of robotics with AI, right? If you get that combo right, you have pretty much an infinite not and energy is, uh uh can be consistent and be a supplier for the driver forces. You pretty much have infinite productivity then, between the robots and the AI. Then what happens? What does the economy even look like then? What's the market gonna do? This is such a crazy period of time. Like this, yeah. There's part of me that wonders, and you might think I'm crazy. I'd like to get your reaction on this because I've been thinking about this. There's part of me that wonders if this is like the last chance to grab the bag before we see a massive like reset on our expectations and outlook for like how does the economy function now that AI and robots do 80% of the jobs, or what is this, what like what does that even look like? And then I, yeah, even on a smaller scale, self-driving. Why do you need Uber if they're self-driving? Or wouldn't Tesla just do all the Uber services? It's a very simple software to set up on their end. They already have expertise in doing software and stuff, and then their cars just come pick you up. You don't even need a driver. It's interesting. It's in my opinion. I don't know. This I think the landscape could just, yeah, talk about industrial revolution on steroids. And it doesn't feel like it feels so wrong. As a trader, it feels so wrong to me because it feels like a dot-com bubble. Like it feels like I should be really scared right now of getting this market. But then I look at I read your reports and I'm looking at this price action. I'm listening to Powell and I'm like, man, I mean, it's green lights go, but it's just the psychology right now is tough.
Oh no,
The
absolutely. And
balance,
that
yeah.
I think that's when you have to just take a step back and get things into perspective. Like, for example, I wrote a short article on Adobe. What was that? When did I publish that last week?
That was
Um,
great.
and the theory behind it is if we do end up going in a downturn, if we do see marketing budgets get cut, you know, who why would a company need to hold a license for or a subscription for that matter for Photoshop or their video editor? That's not the right place to be during a downturn if one were to occur. And also the advent of all this generative AI image processing stuff, just looking at how more sophisticated these images are getting to where, at first it was kind of like blobs that when you look far away, you kind of get a glance, it looks like the picture. Then when you really look at it, it's like kind of fucked up. And now it's like an actual art piece.
Yeah.
So, it's getting more advanced and intricate. And, the better these generative images become, the less of a necessity you have to need to touch them up with Photoshop.
Right. Well,
So, yeah.
even like, why would you pay for Adobe? I mean, even think about what this is going to do to like small time actors. Because why would you pay for the Adobe and all that equipment and then get the actors for your commercial when you can just go to OpenAI, pay way cheaper fee, and then literally you just plug in what you want the video to look like? And I mean, these videos are crazy good. Like it's really, really hard to tell that it's not real. Even
No, absolutely.
even the fine details of like hair blowing in the wind, like wow, like incredible. So like, yeah, I'd be super nervous about Adobe. You
Hmm.
also have and I had told you this, but it's not something you could quantify in a report. But like, as someone who's a content creator, I make doing so much. Like, CapCut is a subsidiary of TikTok, and they do they have some competition. There's some overlap with what Adobe does, but they do it so much better. Because if um if you if you want to think about this from like the user experience side, Adobe is like WordPress, where it's like this program that has a bunch of other programs just layered on top of it, and none of it functions very well together, and it's all just a like a mess of code that's like, this is kind of weird to navigate because, well, before it was like this, so they just kind of like duct taped over a solution. And whereas like these new platforms that come out faster because AI could do the coding for them, they have better AI tools incorporated in them, and it's just, oh, it's beautiful to work with something like that over something like Adobe.
No, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
want to I want to mention I think it was on Instagram or something, just like one of those business reels or whatever. They were talking about the advent of PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint when it came out. And I don't know how factual. I didn't look back and look this up, but they were talking about how like companies would pay $1,500 a slide for a presentation, and with PowerPoint, it's the cost of your own labor. So that very well could be the same detriment that Adobe falls into, to where, instead of paying X amount of dollars for Photoshop, you now pay a small utilization fee for this generative AI application.
Yeah.
And it
You
it's
save a ton of
it's a
money.
changing, yeah, it's a changing business model, to where instead of locking into subscription, you're paying for consumption. So it's non-committal and can be highly effective, it seems like.
It's gonna be
So yeah.
it's gonna be incredible. So you're we actually, yeah, so super short on
Mhm.
those giant staple names, and it makes me wonder about um do you think you'll do a future report on something like Apple or Google, kind of where they
Um,
stand
it's
with
been on
that?
my back burner for a while.
Yeah.
It's been on my back burner for a while. I have a lot of backlog that I'm working through and trying to get to, and it just it's one of those things where it keeps adding up to something else, something else, something else.
Yeah.
But
It never
I'll make
stops. Yeah.
exactly. I'll make a point to roll around to Apple, get the Mag 7 going this coming week. Get Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, get those guys in. I was going to
Get
hit
that
up
stuff.
Micron tonight after after the gym, and get them out later tonight, tomorrow morning.
Man, I missed that one with options into that earnings call. I think the stocks recently had a pullback, now sitting at like, oh, still sitting at 110. Never mind. We had a bit of a sell off this morning with a quick recovery there, but that was an amazing earnings that they had recently. So
Oh,
I
absolutely.
I'm a shareholder. This stock's been in multi-year consolidation because they've been dumping money into um uh to research and development, and I think that's going to start coming to fruition. Yeah, I mean that'll be exciting one to dive through some more. I liked it because I bought it. I think I got it in the 70s is when I bought it. Yeah, and so just off pure value play, and now that's paying off very well. But I think this could go much higher. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts there on that one. But
No, absolutely.
I've been trying, the only thing you could do here is like you don't want to buy the highs on any of this stuff. So you sit and you pray for some sort of pullback to happen.
And it just keeps running,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. There's so many points where you're like, well, it's not really a pullback, but it isn't really pull back anymore. I guess I'm gonna come in on this. Yeah, so it's crazy. Do you still hold the same, oh man, did you still hold the same perspective on SCMCI as well?
Yeah, I was looking at them earlier today. I'll have to rechart them out, but it seems like directionally and timing, my chart was accurate, just like off by a couple $100 on the upside. So, you know, essentially just pushing out the price action further down the line. I'm still bullish on the name at what I priced it at 1,300 or so.
Yep.
still bullish on the name. You
Yep.
know, as I disclosed on my Substack, I expected a price pullback to, I don't remember what I said it was, like in the 900s or so, give or take, before, you know, returning back to growth mode. And, you know, just considering all things, they priced in a bond issuance. What was that, last week or 2 weeks ago? They priced in an equity raise this last week. So they're raising capital, they're making the right moves, and this is information that we kind of anticipated, in which they're building these monster facilities. Where was it? I want to say Vietnam, uh, Malaysia. Was it Malaysia or Taiwan? Somewhere over there.
I'm pretty sure it
Then
was
they're building
Malaysia.
one over, or they're expanding one or two of them and building one or two of them. I want to say they're doing that in San Francisco or Bay Area as well. So they're just putting on a massive amount of capacity in anticipation for, you know, the growing demand for their high capacity servers. And um, you know, this is still going to be maybe a year down the road before it comes online. So they still have time, and that should be good timing by the time that uh Taiwan Semi gets their ducks in a row with their new capacity. It should be good timing for everything to sort of line up. You know, Taiwan gets GPU production up, SMCI gets their server rack production up, and it just cascades from there. So, you know, long-term bullish on SCMI still. Where the price goes between then and now, that's hard to say. I feel like the chart goes one way or another every other day. But still long-term bullish on the name.
Yeah, I mean, if this with the macro effects, passive buying, the hedge funds not being in it, there's any sort of retracement
Mhm.
on this, any major retracement, we both have a Fed put and we have a bunch of big money that's not participating. That's probably desperate to have a good end. If you look at the S&P, like there's been literally you can't even get below that 20-day moving average for some of these names. So any sort of pullback is going to have massive buy pressure, V-shaped recovery, and then election coming up. Fed doesn't want to get in the way of it. These prices could go so much higher than you think they will. I've already been thinking that. I've tried to get myself in that 2021 mindset of like keep playing the upside, buying the dips, and
Mhm.
taking profits along the way because it won't last forever. But yeah, I think, you know, originally what I think we had a potential for 1700 for SMCI, and I still think that could happen. Now post split probably settles around like 500 or something. But yeah, there's some of these names I think they could go nuts. We're even seeing legacy players like Dell do really
Oh
well.
yeah, Dell shot up,
Yeah,
and I like Dell. I was short on HPE, but long on Dell. You know,
that which
Dell's
is if someone's
mhm,
nervous, that's great to say though, because if someone's nervous about being one-sided on the market right now, that's a great pair trade to go for. So you
absolutely.
set up some Dell calls, or turn it to maybe a spread, and then do the opposite on HPE. Maybe ratio it appropriately, maybe a 2-to-1 for Dell calls to HPE shorts. Um, but yeah, well, that's a great idea. That's a great trade idea. Set up.
No,
Sorry to interrupt you,
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
yeah.
No, yeah, that was the result of that. There's a high, like Dow, they were optimistic about the market. There's a lot of demand for their legacy server. There's growing demand. And that's another company, you know, mentioning NVDA demand. They can't get enough chips or GPUs for their servers, so their backlog just bloated up for AI servers or AI enabling servers. So it's been, you know, virtually every hardware integrator that I've listened to in the last, call it 3 months, has voiced the same issue. They cannot get enough NVIDIA GPUs. And that kind of comes back down to, why are people bearish on NVIDIA? Like, I get it, the valuation is high, but at the same time, who cares? You know, I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong. High valuations mean a faster fall. But at the same time, if NVIDIA didn't have a high valuation, you'd be questioning, why the hell is it undervalued? Or why is this a value play? You know, if this is the bee's knees, why is nobody buying it? Good
Right.
companies deem high valuations. You know, that's not new. That's not novel. That's something that's been going on for generations. But at the same time, it's like, you know, there's this insane amount of demand out there for the products that they develop. And then I haven't watched their tech summit deal from earlier in the week, but I saw the headlines. That seems pretty damn positive on what they're working with, higher capacity chips. So
Yeah.
it just baffles me that
There
people would
were
be on the negative for them.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean there were rappers there. There were actors there. There were people who probably didn't understand hardly anything that happened during the conference who were
My
attending
energy
just
services name was there.
yeah, yeah,
Schlumberger
yeah,
was there.
yeah. Yeah.
They were a speaker.
Yeah. So like everyone is so excited and the demand in the real world applications they're here. They're there. I mean, it's really, 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 really hard to be bearish on this right now. It's incredible. So I will ask, you said the time frame for some alleviation of those demand constraints should be remedied by next year, you think?
Correct. So capacity should come online by year end, and we should see a ramp up sometime in Q1, Q2, I believe, of 25.
That's another that's 9 months. That's 9 months of
We got a lot of waiting.
insane demand not falling off until yeah. 9 months with
But
supply not catching up to demand is going to have quite the effect on the market.
that's 9 months to test the waters and see if there really is that demand, or
Yeah,
if it's just a what was it, 2021 build inventory type of deal. So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Oh yeah. Huh. I guess that would be a subtle fear is a Peloton effect where if they ramp up demand too much, it doesn't persist past the ramp up, and then boom, you're stuck with a bunch of inventory. That would be pretty
Mhm.
catastrophic, but I think it's way too early to say something like that will happen, not with the numbers that we're seeing right now. That
No, absolutely. And
yeah.
referencing to another company I cover, you know, Palantir, they can't get
Oh
enough
yeah.
salespeople to meet how much interest in their AI products.
Why does the stock you did a report on them, right? I can't
A
remember.
couple, correct?
Honestly.
Yeah.
You did a couple. Okay, that's right. I thought so. Why does the stock market hate this stock? This is not what was your price? Can you refresh me on your price target on them? What was that at?
Oh, I need to refresh myself on that. It's
Yeah,
been
I feel like the market hates this stock. And I think a lot of that is due to those government contracts. But now that we're seeing actual corporate demand from the free market, surely the stock should be getting more love than it gets. I still see crazy bearish reports saying that this should go back to the $8. There's
yeah,
something
my
there's something about
my
that CEO. There's something about the marketing. There's something there that people just don't like, and I can't quite put my finger on it anymore because I feel like they've proven themselves at this point.
so my price target was 30.70.
Okay.
And yeah, and I think the stigma with Palantir isn't necessarily just a CIO. I mean, he's a very eccentric person, especially, you know, given his recent interview.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what is he, an engineer by trade?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can't expect him to be the most sociable person on on an interview like that. He's going to
Yeah.
speak very bluntly, and
Well,
it may
did
not come out how he intends.
you saw the video clip of him talking to the reporter, right? Where he says,
That's
We
the one, I think.
yeah, we love killing the bears so they can't afford any more Coke. That was a funny
If
interaction.
anyone has the software to track them down and connect the money guys to the buyers or the debtors or whatever, they're the guys. They'll find them.
Yeah.
They found Osama, so they can find Joe Schmo that's bad on his debts down the street.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I feel like there's a huge crossover with people who are bearish on Palantir, are also bearish on the market, are also afraid of war. And there's like several overlaps there that don't really make sense. Like if you don't think if you're scared of war and you think it's gonna crash the market, wouldn't you want Palantir? Because they're gonna be the ones that are going to be used the most during that. They'll benefit massively from that. That feels like if you want allocate, just think about it. If you want allocation to AI, but you also want a defensive stock because you're nervous about the current evaluation. Shouldn't you be buying the stock hand over fist? Why is the
Mhm.
market not showing the stock more love? It kind of blows my mind by the way SPY is just crashing right now. I wonder if there was some news just now. Um,
Yeah, and I
Not
mean
crashing,
Palantir, they're
sorry.
right in the
But
middle of it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
SPY said,
Palantir's right in the middle of this war. They're
yeah,
supporting Israel, they're supporting Ukraine,
right.
which could be why Wall Street doesn't love them right now, or retail investors don't love them right now. They're supporting countries that, maybe the general populace doesn't quite agree with, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
Um, but I
yeah.
think they're a phenomenal company. I think there's an insane amount of demand for the products they release. And I love their sales strategy. So they're not smiling and dialing, going around trying to sell product. They created essentially a masterclass that gets them one on one with, whether it's the CEO, the IT guys, whoever's going to be managing the product. They do one on ones, they do like group meetings of like 40 or whatever. And they sit them down, they show them the actual use cases with their very own data and say, hey, this is how much money you can actually save with our software implemented in your environment. Like it is genius. They're giving away essentially a free trial to just to prove the point that our product is better than whatever the hell you're using.
Yeah.
And and I mean, based on the verbiage from their last call, it's working. So they limit the seats in each class, each master class or whatever you want to call it. They limit the amount of seats, amount of heads that can attend, and they're over capacity. They have such high demand that they can't um, create enough of these classes to cater to how many companies are interested in scoping out their products. It's just incredible. They have the same stigma as NVIDIA. For some reason, people are just randomly bearish on them for no viable reason other than maybe they just don't like the name or because it's popular and trendy and cool. Well, who cares if it's popular, trendy, or cool? That just means retail guys are getting into it. Don't be lame brain and stick to your guns no matter how bad they are. What's the theorem? Bayes theorem. Use the current information to redirect your thesis. If you're wrong initially, it's okay to admit you're wrong and correct and be right. But it's even more wrong to realize you were wrong and continue being wrong.
Yeah. Though that's also how you nuke your portfolio and set yourself years back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
years and years back.
miserable.
Yep.
It's a
I was
disservice to their clients. So if you have an advisor that's not buying NVIDIA or hasn't bought NVIDIA, just know that since I published my report, when was that? I think February, January, it's gone up 73%. And that's way late from the monster rally they had in the last year. So just
yeah.
do take note that your advisor is doing a disservice to you by not buying what's fun and cool
Yeah.
sometimes.
We should also take note that Monty's one of the best of the best as well. That is not an opinion piece. That is shown in the data. Um, I'll put up the stats. I had the photo here. and that it's just incredible. We've been killing it, but I think we've got a nice little short report for everyone who enjoyed this. We're gonna be doing these more. Um, we're both very busy, Monty and I. It's hard to keep up with people wanting to reschedule to the podcast. They drop out. I don't have time to try and fill the slot. That's why we've been so spotty. But the two of us, we can get together and do these regularly. And then every once in a while, something comes wrong. If an opportunity comes up, a fund manager wants to come on, we'll have them on and we'll have a guest. But I would, in the future, look for us to host these on a very consistent basis. We'll be here every week, typically on Wednesdays. Of course, every once in a while, we might have to change a date. Things happen, they come up. But look for these to be the new consistent podcast. And make sure you also check out the Discord. Monty's in the Discord. We have several members. The Discord is not open to the public. I want to do one little announcement. Sorry, Monty, I might monologue here for a moment.
You're all good.
The Discord is no longer public. There's been too many scammers. All the links to get in are currently closed. I'm currently rebuilding the website. I'm in the process of that right now. By tonight, it should be back up, and then members will be able to get in again. But you'll have to pay to get in. This will keep out the bots. This will keep out the scammers. I'm going the Elon Musk method. All verified users. One of our members got scammed, and I don't want that to happen again. I also can't keep up with all the people we have to ban, and we're growing like a lot faster than we ever have before. So this is what I'm going to have to do to help manage that inflow and to, try and protect our members and crack down on the spam. The only thing I also want to add is I had lots of people bugging me about doing lifetime memberships. And so we'll be having we now have a lifetime membership for the Discord as well. I'm doing one time only. It'll never happen again. A sale on the lifetime memberships. So by Monday, the price for lifetime doubles. All right. You can get in right now. And if you are a subscriber to the Peach Pit on Monty's Peach Pit, you can DM me an email with your pay stub, and I'll give you an additional 50% off for being a follower of the Peach Pit. All right. And of course, Monty, check out Monty's Peach Pit in the link down below as well.
Do check it out. This week's report, single name stock report, covered APA Corporation, previously known as Apache Corp, one of the big E&P companies, primarily in the Permian Basin. A little bit of action in Egypt, the North Sea, and trading in Suriname, down by Guyana. Big things are happening with them. Very cool, interesting company to take a look at. So be sure to read this week's report. Tuesday, I'm releasing the update to the model portfolio where I discuss different trade ideas, present setups, present the fundamental analysis that backs up the technicals. So be sure to get caught up on all the information. It's all available on the Substack to premium subscribers. Recently upped the price to $500 a year, $50 a month if you choose to be a little less committal than a year. And I will not tell you, I'm not going to increase the prices again, but better buy in now, lock in that price.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, people don't realize how much this guy works. It blows my mind. I've been feeling like a lazy POS. I hurt my bicep and I haven't been able to do squat up until very recently. My God, I feel amazing, by the way. But that's how what's important is you look freaking great, dude. Like you are looking phenomenal. He's got a bodybuilding show coming up, cutting out
5 weeks
all
out.
the extra Oh, and this is when it's the hardest, where you're constantly hungry, where you're a little bit more irritable than usual, but you seem in a great mood today, which is awesome. I know what it's like to cut, though. We know what it's like. And
yeah, I'm sorry
it's...
to that Discord subscriber that I was a little bit short with. What was it? He asked if I wrote the piece.
Yeah. You said, "Here's a piece I wrote." He said, "Did you write it?" Yeah, that's okay though.
It's like, no. I got a different one. I released a report yesterday yesterday on Journey Energy to reiterate my short position, and some guy was like, I'm going long on it. You don't know anything. I was like, well, according to my track record, I kind of do. So it
So
looked,
funny,
I
man.
shared the link to the tip rank that you referenced earlier, and he's like, oh, I think I'm going to sell a piece of and it's down like 2% today, so I'm not
Yeah.
feeling too bad about it.
Yeah.
Hopefully I saved him a couple bucks,
Yeah.
but that's enough for us.
Yep.
We'll be
Absolutely.
back next week.
Great talking to you, man. Y'all have a good one, and make sure to check out those links down below. All right. Oh, and like the video.